Highways that will get Ontario drivers out of gridlock.
The government announcing funding for more highways, but no new spending for building hospitals and schools. Plus,
I can't explain you how our lives destroyed right now.
The heartbroken family of a young girl struck and killed by a vehicle in Vaughan is now suing the city. Plus, after being shut down for more than a year, the Cinesphere at Ontario Place is reopening tonight with a major Marvel screening. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. New highways, that's the top priority for the Ford government as it unveiled its fall economic statement today. It's giving the green light to two controversial highway projects in the GTA. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crowley has more on that and the other highlights, including a tax credit if you opt for a staycation.
The finance minister had set some pretty big expectations for today's fall economic statement. Now that it's been unveiled, you'll find little that hasn't already been announced.
I recognize the Minister of Finance.
The biggest news in Peter Bethlenfalvy's mini budget, the green light for two big highway projects. The 413, stretching for 60 kilometers across the western part of the GTA, and the Bradford bypass connecting the 400 to the 404.
We are saying yes to highways that will get Ontario drivers out of gridlock.
The mini budget does not show how much either highway will cost, and Bethlenfalvy isn't saying.
It's premature to put definitive numbers in place.
The government is pitching this as all about building Ontario, but the 10-year budget for infrastructure revealed today is only a fraction higher than what was announced back in the spring. And the money allocated for building hospitals, schools, and transit over the next 3 years is not a penny different from what was in the budget last March.
Really troubling to see a fall economic statement that is completely bereft of anything that Ontarians need right now.
Doug Ford is dreaming if he thinks that this is a plan that will help move the people of Ontario forward, in particular through the rest of this pandemic and what needs to come beyond.
A staycation tax credit, first promised a year ago, will come into effect next year. The credit will reimburse 20% of your cost to stay in an Ontario hotel, B&B, cottage, or campground. The maximum credit is $200 per person or $400 per family. So what's not in the mini budget? Neither the middle-class income tax cut nor the corporate tax cut that the PCs promised back in the last campaign. And climate change? In this 200-page document, it's mentioned exactly twice.
And highways 58 times tells you all you need to know. The government absolutely has no plan to reduce climate pollution in Ontario.
The government now pegs this year's deficit at $21.5 billion, nearly $12 billion less than what was forecast in March. Mike Crowley, CBC News, Toronto.
The family of a 10-year-old girl fatally struck by a car is now suing the driver and the city of Vaughan. The child was riding her bike on September 1st when she was hit by an SUV. As Greg Ross tells us, the family says it happened in an area known to be unsafe, and they believe the city didn't do enough to address the dangers.
I can't explain you how our lives destroyed right now. We have no idea how to live, what to do, what to plan in the future.
Natalia Bellick fights off tears as she tries to describe the pain her family has been going through since losing her daughter a little over 2 months ago.
To even imagine holidays without her. It was one already past, the Halloween, one of her favorite one. And it was very difficult to see the kids going around trick or treat. And I was thinking about her, and I was thinking how happy she would be.
Now the family wants to know how something like this could happen, and they hope the answer to that question may help prevent another tragedy like this one.
The reason why I'm here, standing on the place where she was killed, I don't want anybody coming through what our family coming through right now.
According to police reports, Nikita was riding her bike on this sidewalk just outside of the North Thornhill Community Center. As she attempted to pass this driveway, she was hit by an SUV that was leaving the community center.
It's our position that this accident was completely avoidable.
Mike Smitchuk is one of the lawyers representing the family in a $7.5 million lawsuit against the driver of the SUV and the city of Vaughan.
We are alleging in the statement of claim that the driver failed to pay proper attention, that the driver may have been distracted, but we are also alleging that the city of Vaughan was aware of community concerns in this very area with motorists, and they failed to take proper action, or any action.
The driver of the SUV, 33-year-old Ton Nguyen of Mississauga, was charged last week with careless driving causing death. That provided little comfort to the Bellick family.
No charge is going to be enough. I lost my sister, my parents lost a daughter, and I see three of the strongest people in my life that are falling apart before my eyes. No charge is going to be enough.
A representative for the city said in a statement that while the incident is heartbreaking, the city is unable to comment because the matter is under litigation. They also said safety remains a leading priority. Greg Ross, CBC News, Vaughan.
The death of a woman whose body was found by a child in their Oshawa home has now been ruled a homicide. Police were called to Philip Murray Avenue near Park Road South on Tuesday afternoon. A young child had returned home to find his grandmother dead. The victim has been identified as 67-year-old Ruth Humphreys. Police say a post-mortem of her body revealed significant trauma not consistent with accidental or self-inflicted injuries. Toronto police say they've charged a man after he allegedly sprayed an unknown substance in a dog bowl outside a store on Queen Street. It happened at around lunchtime on Saturday. Police say a witness told the owner of the business immediately, and the bowl was removed before any dogs could drink from it. The 41-year-old man faces a charge of mischief to property. Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, a little bit of wet weather today, but mostly dry.
Thanks, Kelda. Yeah, we had a little bit of lake effect stuff through the evening hours, which is really largely tapering off. And we're going to be seeing continuing clearing through the overnight hours, which means several areas with some cooler temperatures and most below freezing, even if only a little bit. But we do really have a beautiful fall pattern coming our way. We're getting into some dry conditions several days where we'll be seeing at least some sunshine in there. A lot of it, by the way, tomorrow. And so the next several days are looking pretty good. And the other thing that will be happening, okay, it's all relative for this time of year. I've got mild, but just that the temperatures will be rising a little bit with overnight lows and daytime highs. We hit this early in the afternoon, that daytime high for Toronto, and then the temperature most of the later afternoon was around 5-6 degrees there. In terms of tonight, there's that clearing that we will be seeing and the sunshine and the setup through southwestern Ontario into tomorrow, eastern Ontario, a little bit of variable skies later in the day especially, but that low tonight, -1. Toronto feeling like -3. Even tomorrow morning around 7-8 o'clock, still feeling that way. And then climbing up to 9 degrees for the high with that sun, Kelda.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Colette. 6 Toronto police officers have been found guilty of discreditable conduct. Their actions laid out in an internal police report the public wasn't meant to see. The officers were investigated for social media posts regarding comments that targeted an outspoken lawyer and an anti-racism activist. Now, CBC News has obtained a copy of the confidential report. Chris Ensing has more on what's in it.
Toronto lawyer Selwyn Peters is a frequent police critic, but says comments officers made about him online go too far.
The language that they used against me were insultive, it was profane, it was rude, and some of it brings the administration of justice into disrepute.
In July 2018, Peters was walking in Regent Park when he saw police stop and ticket a young black man.
Thank you, boss. Yep, there you go. Your profile and give them tickets.
Later that month, a Toronto police officer linked to a news story about the video on Facebook saying Peters was anti-police. More officers chimed in. That's all he does, make noise, wrote an officer. One officer referred to Peters as a big loser. Another racist idiot like Desmond Cole posted yet another officer. Selwyn would cry racism if I said I drink my coffee black, wrote a fourth. 2 officers liked the post. Their comments sparking an internal investigation this summer when a person found the public posts. The confidential investigative report was kept secret. CBC News obtained a copy. In the report, the investigator wrote, comments such as those posted by these officers threatened to derail concentrated efforts to build better relationships between the black community and the Toronto Police Service. 5 of the officers denied they were discriminatory and thought the posts would be private. The investigator found all 6 officers displayed discreditable conduct, but ruled the comments were not racist. Peters didn't know about the posts or the investigation until asked by CBC News.
Another problematic aspect of that as well is I wasn't interviewed nor Desmond Cole. Certainly I have things to say about the officers' conduct and their remarks.
Cole declined to comment. The head of the Criminal Lawyers Association agrees.
We have to listen, and these officers were not listening.
The officers come from a wide range of departments. One officer pleaded guilty last year to assaulting a Toronto resident, the victim suffering 2 leg fractures after being kicked and pushed to the ground by the officer. CBC News has learned the officer who made the original post is being investigated by Peel Regional Police. A source telling CBC News the complaint relates to actions at a Scarborough car meet in January. The officer allegedly punched 24-year-old Moses Demian.
I didn't obstruct you. I was going to bar.
Demian, who was on medication for mental health issues, killed himself hours after being treated in hospital. Those allegations haven't been proven. Police say they won't comment on that investigation, and they can't comment on the discreditable conduct findings because it wasn't held at a public tribunal hearing. It's not known what, if any, punishment these officers will face. Peters says he wants a review of the internal investigation, saying he will go as far as the law allows to hold these officers accountable. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Manulife is also honoring Canada's fallen soldiers by planting 12,000 flags in their honor.
We wouldn't have the values, we wouldn't have the freedoms, we wouldn't have the human rights that we have today here in Canada, live the lives we do, if these people hadn't made the ultimate sacrifice. These are the people who go in when we're all heading in the opposite direction. They protect us, and I think Canadians appreciate what they have done for us, both overseas and here in Canada.
Manulife has been carrying the tradition for 7 years now. Each of the flags represent 10 Canadians who have passed away in the line of duty. Well, much of the GTA's South Asian community is celebrating Diwali today, also known as the Festival of Lights. Hindus, Sikhs, and Jains traditionally get together with family and friends to share gifts and food. One Hindu organization in Toronto invited the community for a prayer.
Today we're celebrating the most amazing festival of Diwali, the Festival of Lights, and we're sharing the values of caring for others, unity, and family values, and that we should be grateful or thankful for all the wonderful things that we have in our lives.
Toronto Mayor John Tory, as well as Conservative leader Erin O'Toole, attended the event. Today marks the 3rd day of the 5-day festival. Celebrations were limited last year due to the pandemic. After going dark for more than a year, the Cinesphere at Ontario Place reopened tonight in a big way with the screening of Marvel's latest epic. Moviegoers and staff eager to take in the IMAX experience without capacity limits. Jessica Ng takes us inside.
There was no Marvel content for a year, and I was struggling. I was I need my dose of Marvel.
Tonight, Taylor Walker was surrounded by over 400 people who also bought tickets to the Cinesphere. They're all here to see The Eternals, the latest in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Being stuck at home and not being able to watch movies in the theater it was heartbreaking for me.
The film student got here early. And after showing proof of vaccination, it was finally her turn to enter the Cinesphere. Glenn Shaver, who's in charge of product and experience development at Ontario Place, has also been missing the crowds.
There's something about that sense of a community cinematic experience that you just can't duplicate in your living room.
The theater was last opened to the public in September 2020 and only briefly since for private screenings during the Toronto International Film Festival. He says The Eternals is a must-see in the Cinesphere, which boasts an IMAX screen that's 40% larger than regular screens.
Part of this film has IMAX shot content in it. It can make use of the entire 1:3 aspect ratio screen, which is 60 feet by 80 feet.
Shaver says the movie-going experience and public health measures are largely similar to what they were last year. The big difference? The ambiance and watching a movie with hundreds of others. Now the capacity limits have lifted.
Very excited. It is weird to be returning to the idea of being in a space with 400 other people because, you know, obviously our mindset about that has changed significantly in the last year and a half.
The excitement for a return to the big screen with a big crowd was palpable.
These are creatures that are bigger than the planet Earth. So you should watch them in the biggest format possible so that you can get the true experience.
Finally being able to actually go back to theaters and see Marvel movies, it's just an amazing feeling.
And Walker made sure she had all the fixings for a first true night at the movies in quite a long time. Jessica Ng, CBC News, Toronto.
You're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline, partly cloudy tonight. The rest of those clouds will be dissipating in the overnight, making way for some sunshine tomorrow. Currently, it's 4 degrees in the city. Let's go back to Colette now. And Colette, I'm looking forward to this weekend, not just because it'll be milder, as you mentioned, but we get an extra hour of sleep.
Kelda, well, you know, I don't want to assume that others need as many reminders as I sometimes do, but I'd like to have that reminder. And this is one that's pretty favorable because in the fall we gain, you know what I mean, sort of gain that extra hour as the clocks fall back. Technically, that happens in the wee morning hours Sunday, but you're going to likely want to, unless you're going to be up late, you want to be setting those back Saturday before you go to bed. Get a little bit of extra sleep if you can convince the kids to sleep in. That's another story. I want to show you what's happening here. We're getting into clearer skies, losing some of that lake effect, but a few areas now with a west to southwesterly flow that we'll be seeing into tomorrow afternoon, especially. You'll start to see at least some cloud cover develop in the lee of Georgian Bay, but where you're not seeing the cloud cover is to the west end of Lake Ontario, around the Golden Horseshoe, back through southwestern Ontario, and that's where we're going to be seeing a lot of sunshine. So it's cool night tonight and tomorrow morning. Temperature will come up a little bit from where it did today, but it's going to be a really pleasant pattern that we're going to be seeing for the next several days here with dry conditions. We'll get into a bit more cloud cover, sure, kind of variable into Saturday, but there's still sun in there. When you have variable skies, it just means you get a little more cloud cover at a time and a little less another time. A little bit of that westerly flow, still some wet flurries, but otherwise seeing things dropping back. Very disorganized in terms of the wind flow, which kind of takes back and dials back those lake effects, which is great. But tomorrow afternoon, we get a little bit more agreement here into a southwesterly flow, so be looking for that. Might keep the temperature down a tiny bit, say Oshawa, from the daytime heating. Wind chills tonight of -6 to -8, -4 your overnight low. Windsor, let's get you to double digits. I'm going for it, 10 degrees the high for tomorrow afternoon, and tonight feeling like -3 to -8 around the Golden Horseshoe. St. Catharines down to freezing. Elsewhere we're dropping below that, up to 8. 7 for Oshawa, 10 for St. Catharines, 9 for Toronto tomorrow, and then Saturday we're going to be seeing things coming up into those double digits, and the overnight lows become milder too. But look at that nice stretch there coming up, Kelda.
A memorial was held today for former Ontario Premier Bill Davis, who died in August at the age of 92. Davis was one of the country's longest-serving premiers, holding the position for 14 years in the 70s and into the 80s. He was remembered today for his impact and the legacy he leaves behind.
His openness, his friendliness, his absolute relaxed manner with anyone, and he treated everyone the same.
You know, I hope that people remember what a great advocate he was for his community and his ability to connect with people in a genuine way.
Bill Davis was a remarkable Ontarian, remarkable Canadian. He really modernized our education system, modernized the economy here in Ontario. He brought people together, and he was someone that was respected on all sides.
I think he'll go down as certainly, if not the greatest premier Ontario's had, the best known, the best liked. He appealed to a broad coalition of Ontarians, and he always found a way to get things done.
Bill Davis was very much a visionary. He was always happy to offer his wise counsel and share his keen grasp of human nature.
Like many of you, I hope this inspires me to carry forward that approach, those values, today more than ever. The world really does need more Bill Davis.
Above all, the best way I can describe
Bill Davis is that he radiated decency and kindness. A premier, an environmentalist, the father of the college education system, the co-architect of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, a leader ahead of his times, a labor activist, but in Brampton he was known as our Brampton Billy.
He was a man who got big things done. Bill has left a tremendous legacy on the province, and the Ontario we enjoy today is very much still the province he helped build. He certainly left big shoes to fill, and all premiers since have been measured against his legacy.
I was blessed to have this wonderful man as a mentor and as a friend. We were all blessed to have him as a leader and as an example. Rest in peace, Premier.
Finally tonight, the Toronto Police Service launched its Movember campaign earlier this week, but today they're introducing us to their campaign spokesman, who might have one of the most impressive mustaches you've ever seen.
Draper is the newest captain of the Toronto Police Follicle Force in the Movember campaign. We picked Draper up in April, and I can't tell you how much media, or not media attention, but regular public attention that this horse gets on a daily basis.
Draper is part of the police service's mounted unit, and his stash is completely natural. The 3-year-old Clydesdale is leading the Follicle Force to raise money for men's mental and physical health. McCarthy says his mustache is modeled off the one the horse has. He calls it, rightfully, the Draper. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.